For many people, the Lexington High School environment can be both exciting and daunting. The high expectations and peer competition can motivate students to strive for excellence. However, this can also lead to a lot of pressure to perform at a high level.
This norm has not come without consequences. Indeed, many of said consequences have established a chokehold on the student body.
So why this chokehold on students? Why does such an issue persist, despite the administration's efforts to introduce more mental health awareness and anti-stress efforts? To find out, we decided to follow a group of overachieving juniors in their AP Calculus BC class as they prepare for their final project. This is Less Than 60 Minutes, the inner workings of LHS.
On the 31st of August, 2022, a new school year began at LHS. Students flocked in, happy to be able to talk with and hang out with their friends. Yet, dark clouds loomed on the horizon. A select group of 5 juniors would take what was considered the hardest class at LHS, AP Calculus BC. Though usually a senior class, the school created provisions for bright, overachieving students to skip grades in math by testing out. Students would meet with the math department over the summer or at the beginning of the year, taking a short test that proved their mathematical ability was up to scratch for them to skip a year.
And so you have also skipped a grade in math?
Yeah, so in 8th grade, I took the extra acceleration exam, and so I went to math 3 as a freshman.
Nice. How has your experience been as a freshman in a sophomore class?
It's definitely kind of odd because you don't really know anyone in your class apart from the few other freshmen you may or may not have. But overall, it's been nice, just kind of hang out and get to know some sophomores a little bit.
What this select group did not know was that their decision to skip a grade was considered excessive, even dangerous by many teachers. Not because they weren't capable, but because the jump in academic social demands was often too great for even the most gifted students.
So non-seniors taking calculus, usually they've skipped a class, and to skip a class, they have to have a good knowledge of the stuff they're skipping, right? Sometimes there might be something in that class that comes back and makes more, so they have a really good understanding overall of the class that they've skipped, but there might be something in that class that makes more of a difference in calculus than we anticipate. That makes sense, because calculus brings everything together. So some seniors taking the class also might not have mastered every single thing in their prior classes. But that can sometimes impact non-seniors too. And sometimes it can be the first class that they've genuinely found challenging. And I think there's an emotional piece to that sometimes, where we have to support students in that.
Students at LHS are constantly privy to conversations about their academic performance, often against their wishes. The school's corridors are filled with talks concerning grades and course selection, and it's not unusual to overhear fervent debates about these matters. LHSers are enthusiastic about their education and strive to achieve their goals, and this emphasis on grades and course selection is a testament to the high level of expectations that have been set for students at LHS. It is true that this drive for academic excellence can be motivating, but it also leads to a tremendous amount of pressure on students.
So, what do you think is the trademark of Lexington students?
So, it's perhaps a little tough to talk about a singular trademark because Lexington High School is a very big school, it's a very diverse school, and the personal stories of the people at Lexington High School are all sorts of experiences. That being said, I think there are some commonalities that we can talk about that are sort of shared by a lot of students and also a lot of faculty, a lot of parents in our school community. I think first and foremost would be the level of educational intensity and value on education. This is a community where people really, really, really value education. People really value learning. People value that in part because they want to get into competitive colleges, but also I am very, very convinced that Many of the students here really value learning for its own sake. They're excited to learn the things that they want to learn about, and that learning is not exclusive to academics. Students here are excited about learning to play music, excited about learning to perform in theatrical groups. They're excited about learning how to compete at a higher level for sports. Almost anything you can think of, I feel like there's some student here doing it at a high level and very passionately. So this is a community that's sort of, I would say, very intense about education, very intense about education very expansively, and very intense about education largely for its own sake.
For many at LHS, the drive for academic excellence is all-consuming. Students constantly compete against their peers. They're looking to become a part of more clubs. They want to add more credits to their schedule. And they want to cram extreme amounts of obligations into 16, 18, or even 20-hour days. And despite the lack of sustainability of such a lifestyle, many simply ignore their lack of motivation, depression, and mental health struggles until these struggles spiral out of control. Thus comes burnout.
Do you feel that Lexington High School is an environment that incites stress and pressures?
Oh, of course. Ultra competitive academics. So yes. Everyone's trying to be the best, get into the best college, chase college app stuff, all of that.
I would say the fact that there are so many high achieving students at Lexington High School really pressures me to become the best student that I can be, but at the same time, I feel a lot of stress about becoming that kind of student.
School?
Yeah, I mean, it's very grade dependent. I don't like it. I mean, as like an outsider looking in, though, I mean, it's been like 1 year at this point, so that's not really true anymore. But I don't know, it just seems a little silly to me. But I don't know.
Burnout, yes, to some extent, especially, I think like this year I really felt it. Because after like 4 years of all that stuff, it kind of added up. But now, with the summer, I'm relaxing a bit more. So it is getting a lot better, but I definitely did feel burnout. And there was a lot of stress, especially when it hit March, For me, that's just like the biggest stressor. I'm just like sick of that.
So we come to the conclusion that burnout is a very dire consequence of the stress at LHS. Yet burnout usually occurs for industry-level workers aged 30 and under and are usually female. So why is this symptom, this stress, so prevalent among people in LHS?
The roots of Lexington High have changed drastically over the last several years. In the past, the school promoted homogeneity and rarely mentioned diversity, equity, or inclusion. Yet it has become evident that the school community has begun to embrace these values, albeit slowly. Conversations around diversity and inclusion have become more frequent. There have been attempts to make the school a more inclusive and welcoming place for all students. Efforts to promote mental health awareness and foster a healthier school environment have also been gaining momentum at all levels of the school community. Although change has been gradual, it is clear that the school is moving in the right direction towards a more inclusive, equitable, and healthy environment for all. Change is coming. But problems still remain.
So you said that you've been teaching for 20 years, so since the early 2000s. Have you noticed any pattern changes among students in that time? Because you've been teaching like similar math courses in that time. Have you noticed any pattern changes over this time?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I would say I have. I would say that the character of Lexington High School today is very similar to the character of Lexington High School 20 years ago, but I would also say that it has intensified a bit. So, in terms of the expectations that students put on themselves, I think those expectations are higher now than they were 20 years ago. I think in terms of the number of students who are highly concerned about their academic grades, we've always had most of our students be very concerned about their academic grades, but I think it's a little bit more so now. And then with regard to math specifically, one of the really big changes over the past 20 years is the number of students who are getting intensive math training outside of LHS. That's been a really big change, whereas 20 years ago, for most students, at Lexington High School, Lexington High School was their primary and oftentimes solitary math experience. Nowadays, many students at Lexington High School are either getting private tutoring or taking courses at institutions like RSM or Art of Problem Solving. So that's been a bit of a change over that time period as well.
Despite the growing awareness of mental health struggles and school life balance, students continue to rush headlong into more challenging classes without regard for their own well-being. What little has been done to address the issue is surface level at best, and it is clear that much more needs to be done. Until we find a way to effectively address student burnout, the problem will remain a significant challenge facing our education system.
The very root of the problem, surprisingly, is the culture of the town of Lexington itself and the thought process of its students and parents. Lexington High School has a long history of academic excellence, dating back to its establishment in 1854. Over the years, the school has earned a well-deserved reputation, both within the state and on much larger scales, for providing students with a rigorous and challenging education that prepares them well for college and beyond. This level of rigor and academic excellence, while undoubtedly a positive aspect of the school, also represents a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it ensures that students are well prepared for the challenges of college and the workforce, and gives them a competitive edge in a rapidly evolving society. On the other hand, the demands it places on the students are scarily strenuous. Of course, the most important aspect of this issue is the thought process of students entrenched in the Lexington public school system. From a young age, children are taught the importance of academic and extracurricular excellence, of grinding to their last breath in order to achieve what only the best can achieve. Parents find themselves in tumultuous study circles and groups with an insistent do-or-die attitude, and on college acceptance day, the whole of Lexington awaits their decisions with bated breath, be it their own, a family member's, or a friend's. Such is the spirit of Lexington. Endless academic competition, stoppered only by achievement.
So, at the end of the day, what have we learned about LHS? Simply put, LHS isn't the problem. Really, the problem of stress and burnout is internal. Given the different stimuli from our environment, we find different ways of processing and coping with them, and as a result, we deal with different levels of stress, competition, and burnout.
At the end of the day, it falls on you to control yourself. And although others may help or hurt you, there is one person truly in command. This has been Less Than 60 Minutes and the inner workings of LHS.